And welcome to In-Game Chat for Saturday, April the 6th, 2019. It is Season 13, Episode 13, and I am Scott.
And I'm RJ.
That is all we got for you today. Matt is out of town. He won't be back next week either. I think he'll be back week after next is what's planned on. Sarah is supposed to come back next week, though, of course. So, anyway, welcome to the show today. Let me do this real quick, and then we'll go over all of our stuff. Get this out of the way first. This little thing. I do this, for anybody who doesn't know, during the editing of the video, the sound becomes off sync. This helps me put the sound back on sync. So, I used to clap, but RJ got us that little clapboard. Yeah. Exactly. And so that's how I line up the audio. Anyway, welcome to the show. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our phone number is 334-272-9228. 334-272-9228. Check out ingamechat.net for all the links to get in touch with us. You can find us on Twitter at InGameChat. You can find us on Facebook at InGameChat. You can find us, I think, you can find us on Reddit, InGameChat, I believe. There's a subreddit for that. We're not doing a thing with it, but it's there. What else do we have? Discord. We are on Discord. Find me. I am Scott IGC 822 something.
I knew I forgot to set something up last week.
Yeah, Scott IGC hashtag 8222 is my name. So, yeah, you can do that if you want to.
Remind me, I'll write that down before we go so I can set it up and get in touch with you.
Yeah, please do. I'll get you in there.
All right.
Yeah, find me on Discord, and then I'll get you into our Discord. We got that thing locked down, so, you know, if you want in, you know, that's how it works. So, let's see. We are streaming right now on Twitch. Go to twitch.tv, type in Game Chat. You'll be able to find us and watch the show live while we broadcast. We are on Twitch right now, and of course, after the show, we'll get this all edited down. We'll put the audio on iTunes, so you can find us there, and we'll put the video up on YouTube. Usually goes live sometime around 10 a.m. on Sunday for that. So, we have got a whole lot of show and only 2 hours to cram it into, and the reason we have a whole lot of show is I have no idea how long this interview is going to go on with Rand today. Today we are talking with, in the second hour, we're going to be talking with Rand Miller. No stranger to the show at all. We've had him on before, twice or three times, I think. Three times before. I think three, and this will be his fourth appearance on the show. So they have a new Kickstarter for Firmament, a game that a new IP that they're working on, and so we're going to talk to him about that. I've gotten questions from some Reddit communities there for both Myst and for Firmament as well. And so I've got them, they've fed some questions that we're going to feed him as well. I'm going to talk to him about all of that, and that comes up in the 5 o'clock hour. In this hour, we're just going to talk about what we've been playing. For me, it's just been Destiny. That is pretty much it. I have not played anything else. I am level cap on my guy. I got all my gear. At this point, I'm chasing some weekly stuff that only shows up on the weekends for you to do to get some more lore out of it.
Yeah.
I'm working on my alt, but my alt is just my alt. He's right there at 7. He's at 699 actually. Mm-hmm. So I do a couple of more things, and then boom, I'll be right now everything is dropping at 700. So I just need a couple more things, and then he's maxed out armor basically, and then I'll be good to go with my alt, which I actually look forward to because of the way the void lock works with his helmet and stuff. So, really, that's all I've been playing. Took me forever to get the music together for the show, even though it seems like it wouldn't. Because what happened was I was looking for music, and I said, we got Rand on. Let's just use music from Cyan games, some games that Cyan had produced. And so it's, there's some Myst in there. I think there's like 4 tracks of Myst, and then there's Abduction, and then there's 2 of their older games that they did before Myst that I'm using as well. But anyway, in the meantime, while I'm looking up music, it's YouTube, and you could fall into a hole in YouTube. And I fell into a hole watching somebody play Road to the Show. from the show 19 because I'd never seen really how that whole thing worked out. And I'm sitting here watching, and I was like, this is fun. I don't know. Maybe on a price dip on that game, I might actually pick it up and play that. It seems like a nice thing to just sort of sit down, relax, and play. And then play like a game. Good to go.
Yeah, just build yourself up from college to the pros. Earn your way in there.
Because I was watching him. He moved into the AAA league for the Birmingham Barons, actually.
Yeah.
And so he was playing it and had a couple of games, and I just liked the way it looked. And I thought, you know what? I don't know. I might want to give this a shot. So it's possible that I might jump into that at some point down the road.
Yeah, just something to break the monotony of sports titles because there's not a lot of a variety. It means the same sport that's been for like hundreds of years. So it's nice to get something in there to break the monotony of playing a normal game. Just something like a role playing.
Exactly, it's just one of those things. You just pop in, play a game, you're done. That's fine. Play another one if you feel like it, but you don't have to. It doesn't feel like I got to grind it. Doesn't feel like I need to. Let's play every week type thing.
Yeah, there's tons of options in there, like some things you don't want to go through, like fielding. You just want to go through the hitting part, or sometimes you don't want to run bases in the day. You can just cut it on or off whenever you feel like it. Yeah. Just whatever you feel that day.
So yeah. What have you been playing, RJ?
Went to GT the other night, met with some friends and played a few games out there. We played a good little session of Soul Calibur 6. Played a good deal of that with some buddies of mine. Had a good time. I was rusty at it, but I was able to buy some stuff and get back into it pretty quickly. Had to remember some of the moves of the moves list because there's like hundreds of moves that you got for each character, and I probably lost like half of them at the beginning, but I was able to remember the rest of them as the night went on. We also played some party games out there. We played the Jackbox Party Pack 5. We played You Don't Know Jack 2018 out of that one. We also played another one called Trivia Murder Party. We played that as well. And then another party game we played was Use Your Words. I think I've talked about it before. It came out a long time ago, but that's another party game we got together and played as well. Other than that, watched a few matches of Street Fighter V. Went to Capcom Fighters Network and watched a few matches there. Get some matchup knowledge as always. And I've been slacking a little bit in it, but I started getting back into playing Sekiro. I got to the point where I'm fighting this boss character, Snake Eye Shirafuji, on this in this gun fort in the Sunken Valley. But I'm thinking I'm getting to the point where I think I'm missing a lot of stuff in there because I'm at the point where 2 hits and I'm dead from this guy.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I may have missed something along the way, and I've tried to play the game initially without any guides or lookup and things like that. So after this point, I looked up a few, and I'm like, man, I've missed a whole bunch of stuff in there because one of the aspects of Sekiro is, I think I've talked about it last time, was dragon rot. And as you die more and more, other people in the area, people who help you, get sick from this disease. And now I'm starting to see people getting sick that I don't recall ever meeting in this game. So I'm like, oh, who is this guy? Who is that guy?
Yeah.
Did I miss something or whatever? So yeah, I'm thinking there's some stuff that I've missed, and I've probably had a few boss battles that would have got me prayer beads so that I can build up my health. So I'm probably going in there short-handed fighting this boss because I've died plenty of times against this guy already. So I'm just time for me to look up a new strategy to take him down. But other than that, that's pretty much all I've been playing this week.
All right. Well, wonderful. I was thinking I was going to get some time in with Spider-Man, but this weekend is a little bit too busy with a few things that have kept me from doing that. One of which RJ caught when he walked in here. Actually, caught both of them when he walked in here.
Yeah.
Basketball on the TV and wrestling on the iPad. So
this is a wrestling weekend.
It's WrestleMania weekend, man. So, and it's also the Final Four in which one of our local teams is participating in.
Yeah.
It's a little bit stacked with here's something to do if you're not going to be doing anything. Like the computer's going to be tied up with rendering this video when we're done.
Right.
So I'll have both wrestling and basketball to look forward to. Even though I would have normally at that time started to play something like Spider-Man. I got Dangerous Driving coming out on the 9th, which is Tuesday.
Yeah, that's right.
That is the Burnout.
I saw that in the PlayStation store. Yeah. Dangerous Driving, yeah.
That is coming out, and I'll be picking that up. I don't know exactly what system. I'm still kind of curious if anybody knows of any, and honestly, this is really for the live folks, because anybody who picks this up afterwards, it's going to be a little too late. But I'm trying to see, I'm trying to find out, does the Xbox One version support 4K? Does the PS4 Pro support 4K? If it does, which one supports it better, or which one is better to play on? I don't think I'm going PC on this one. It has nothing to do with the Epic Game Store.
Epic, okay.
Yeah.
Which one? This is Dangerous Driving. I didn't know that was. I didn't know that was part of the. I didn't know that was part of the. Yeah,
it's exclusive to the Epic Game Store.
Oh, okay.
They got exclusivity for a year out of it. Speaking of, something else to talk about is that Borderlands 3 is exclusive to the Epic Game Store. If on PC, when this game releases, the release date and the platforms. I mean, obviously we knew it was coming to consoles and PC. But there was a big question mark on them going Epic or not. A trailer was leaked, and the only logo being shown in the trailer was Epic. However, Borderlands does use the Unreal Engine, which is an Epic-owned property, which is... So, there was still speculation. Plus, the leak was on April the 1st, which, again, was a little bit of a red flag. But we got a release date, which I believe is September the 13th. For the release date of Borderlands 3. It'll come out on Xbox One, on PS4, and on PC, but only through the Epic Game Store on PC. And again, we're back to that discussion.
Yeah.
What's so wrong with the Epic Game Store? I've looked into this more. Go ahead.
I was about to say, isn't it usually it's usually 12 months exclusivity, right? But they
only got 6.
6 months.
They only did 6.
So why do you got any speculation or ideas why it would be only 6 months? Is the title too big to be held for a year like that?
No, I mean, that's between 2K and Epic, I guess. Gearbox had no hand in this whatsoever. 2K is the publisher. And so 2K is probably in a sense of, they've probably named a price and Epic says, well, we'll give you this much for just 6 months rather than a full year. Or maybe 2K was like, well, the best we can give you is 6 months. We're not going to go a full year being exclusive. It does shed a little bit of a light why they didn't announce at PAX East what was the release date and where it was going to be available, that sort of thing. They kept all that under wraps and didn't do it in front of the live crowd because I think the reaction would have been pretty bad for them, I guess. They were worried about it. They were worried about the
reaction.
Yeah. Which is which says something. If you're afraid to announce where your game's going to be released, why are you afraid to do that? You're afraid of the backlash, then why? And if you are, and it's for that reason, then why are you releasing exclusive? And I mean, they got a money hat, But at the same time, 2K is not necessarily a company that is in need of many money hats.
Not really.
I think they're okay. The indie guys, I can tell, like the Three Fields Entertainment, who did their Dangerous Driving exclusive as well, is like, okay, you're an indie, you're gonna, I'm sure you're gonna take that offering. I looked into some more of it on the Epic Game Store because, again, this Borderlands 3 being released on the Epic Game Store kind of brought up the discussion again. Not that it's ever died down, but it put it more into it put it more into a conversation that I was going to be able to notice and see from the beginning. And first off, a lot of people call it spyware. It's not. There was an article published just this week about they sort of debunked that whole thing, that there was any spyware or any maliciousness going on with the Epic Game Store. Then it became some people said competition is good, but they said, no, this is not competition when you exclusively sell a game on a store. That's not competition. And I actually kind of agree with this. It's not... It's funny that it brings us around to wrestling again. Right?
No, hey. Use your analogy.
Used to be a ton of different ways of getting your wrestling, different organizations and everything, until the big guy came and bought them all up. And
or Walmart versus your mom and pop store.
Right. Like, it just... That's not competition Another store in town is competition. Yes, if you're both selling the same thing, that promotes competition. Only one of you selling it and not allowing the other one to sell it, that's not competition.
Right.
That doesn't come across as competition to me. Right, Drunk Degenerate says it's certainly not consumer-friendly competition. No, exactly, it's not.
Yeah.
And so in that way, I can see, but I'm still sort of going to go wherever. I'll go whoever has it for cheaper. And unfortunately, the two games that I've mentioned so far, being Dangerous Driving and Borderlands 3, are exclusives. I can't go but one place. If I go to PC, I can only go one place to pick those up. At least for a year in one case, 6 months in the other. And here's the other thing. Dangerous Driving, whatever, that's fine. There is no multiplayer in that. For Borderlands 3, there is, and there's co-op, and there's everything else that comes with it.
It's one of the primary features of Borderlands was co-op, playing with friends and getting loot for all your efforts out there. Yeah.
So we know how it is when you miss the beginnings of a game that's very, very multiplayer driven. You're kind of behind. When you join in.
It's quick to get left behind in a game like
that. It is. And I don't necessarily know that anybody's going to get left behind in a sense of what's going on here, because there's a lot of people who do not want to support Epic for what they're doing and will wait out that 6 months if they can. Then again, there's a lot of people that this broke them. This was like, well, they found my weakness, And again, there's a lot of people looking at Red Dead, if Red Dead should ever come to PC, if it becomes a Epic Games exclusive type situation. I still go back though. Everybody's on this Epic Games exclusive stuff, and again, I look at the Master Chief Collection for Halo on PC. There's only 2 stores, one of which I don't have access to because I'm not running Windows 10, so I can't play on the Microsoft Games Windows Store thing. So it either needs to release on Steam or Epic or GOG or something like that, and it is. It's getting a release on Steam, but it's not getting a release anywhere else. Why isn't that is that not bad? I don't know. And I have no idea how that deal worked out or whatever, but I just, I don't hear a lot of people complaining on that.
Starting to get to the point where it's just personal preference. People just don't like Epic for various numerous reasons. The thing you just said about Halo, okay, Microsoft or Steam, okay? I don't have one on Microsoft, but I'm cool with Steam, so I'll get it on Steam.
Yeah.
So now if Epic was involved,
I'm cool. If Epic and Steam were involved, then I'd go where the price was cheaper. And I'll always go where the price is cheaper in that regard. But the price can't be cheaper if it's exclusive, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of layers of the conversation to have, and I'm going to ask Rand about that when he comes on, because they did issue a update to the Firmament thing. Firmament had left out where it was going to be sold on PC, and a lot of people were skeptical because they thought, oh, this means there's the possibility of an Epic's Game Store exclusive. I don't want to support them with that decision for whatever those reasons are. Again, there's multi-levels as to why you may not like that. Do you not like it because it's the lack of the competition when they buy these exclusives? Or do you not like it because ultimately you just don't like having another launcher? Which that one's the one that's a little bit BS on my radar. Now, you're fine. You don't want another launcher, then sure, that's it. Just say that, though, and don't try and hide behind other things. Just say, I like Steam because that's where all my games are, or that's the only thing I like having up. And then show me your computer and tell me you don't have Uplay, Origin, GOG, and then tell me why you have those and you're worried about Epic for whatever reason.
So we got various opinions in the chat room, like... So says that the store is remarkably broken, but other issues say he's had no issues with the Epic Store. It's very basic, simple.
Taxius 59 says that, Taxius 59 says my real problem is the store is remarkably broken. As much as I sit here and talk about the Epic Game Store, I've hardly used it. I log in, I grab my free game, and then I shut it down. I logged in last weekend to look over the pricing and stuff for Dangerous Driving.
Right.
Wanted to see what was available there. It was not bad. It didn't take me long to find the game or anything like that. But I really haven't dove deep into the store itself.
How much was it?
$27.
27,
I think.
Okay.
Should be the same on PlayStation and on
Yeah, I was
Xbox.
thinking it was something else. I want to say it was 20, but I may have been looking at something else. I was looking at a lot of games that day. But I do remember Dangerous Driving being up in the pre-order up in the pre-order list.
Yeah, but I've had no issues with the store at all. But again, I also haven't really used it. I haven't bought anything off the store either. I've only grabbed their free games that they offer. So I haven't run into any kind of situation there. But by the way, Cyan Games, they did, or Cyan Worlds, they did release a statement saying that they do have full intention of releasing this on Steam and a number of places. I'll have to look at the actual statement that they issued, but that no one needs to worry about it being exclusive to the worst case scenario is it being exclusive to PC only. At the moment, in that regard, there's a lot of Mac users who want that, and they're going to try and make that a possibility for them. But this is a heavy VR-centric game. It's not exclusive to VR. You can play it without VR. But VR is getting Mac really hasn't started using VR stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Windows it is at the moment. PCs. Oh, there was another complaint I read about the Epic Game Store.
Okay.
There's no versions available for like Linux users and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a couple of there's actually a few other things involved with that, especially with foreign currency. They're only limited in certain countries. They haven't expanded as far as Steam has at the moment.
Right.
So it is kind of limiting, and for those people in those countries and.
Is anybody working on the Linux issue for
that? I really don't know.
Oh,
I have no idea. I haven't looked into that. But my point being is that I did find some actual legitimate reasons.
Yeah.
I'd been looking for those because at the time nobody was really giving me anything legitimate other than not just coming off as though it was unfortunate for them to have another launcher on their PC. And I don't really see a problem in that if the game is there and you want to play it. I understand it because, that's a lot of what my my Roku and my Apple TV start looking like. With like, hey, it used to be I'm just going to go to Netflix and watch. Now there's Netflix and Prime and Hulu, and there's like app upon app upon app where you can only watch certain things on that, and so.
Showtime, HBO, up there,
it turns into this sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, people still use Linux. Yeah, they do. We have a lot of people in the chat room. I want to go down the list here that we have in there before we take our first break. Vigo Pros, V&K, Thar66, Ted, maybe, Tactus 59. Stephen Van Dam, Sporks 5000, Retrode, Random Man X. How's the plumbing going, buddy? Lethal Migraine, Drunk Degenerates, Crackamus. I like that name. Commander Roots, Bananananan, A New Hope 93 Me, and AC Wraith. Thank you all for joining us in the chat room today. Glad to have you. Thanks for hanging out. We're going to take our first break and. So you finally get to play games. Well, you know what you need to do? Go get your invitation to the 9 and go do your thing. That's what you need to do. Oh, by the way, on your invitation to the 9, I'm strictly speaking to Random X and anybody else that's playing Destiny 2 for the invitation to the 9. Just because the wording of the invitation says kill these things and then do this strike on this specific planet, that does not apply. For this one, you need Cabal, Vex, and Taken. I went to the Dreaming City for my Taken, and then I went to Mercury for my Cabal and my Vex, and then I did the strike. You don't have to get them. You don't have to be on that planet to do it. So just letting you know. We're going to take our first break. Going into our first break here is going back to a game that Cyan released well before Myst. It's I think it still is a puzzle game. It's a game I've never played, but when I visited their headquarters in Spokane, Rand took me down into the vault, and it really is kind of like a vault. Big door. It opens up, and there's just tons and tons of copies of their games.
Yeah.
And memorabilia and all this other stuff. And he's like, "Hey, do you have this?" And they put a pile. You have this? Put it in a pile. You have this? Put it in a pile.
Yeah, I remember you showed me that. You told us that they had like all the copies of Myst on all the consoles that they ever put it on there.
I have a 3DO copy of
3DO,
Myst.
Sega Saturn, all that stuff. Yeah,
I have every single copy of Myst that I can imagine. Still in box form, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, a lot of their earlier games I did not have, so this was one of them. He autographed all of them. He was a wonderful man. And I look forward to talking to him again today. This is Cosmic Osmo is the name of the game, and this is called the Cosmic Osmo Blues. It was the main theme of the game. We'll be back with more in-game chat right after this. And welcome back to in-game chat, music from Abduction, called You Paid for This View. Music on that game composed by Robin Miller, Rand's brother, who did all of the Myst games. I say all of them. He did Myst and he did Riven. I think that was it. I know 3, 4, and I think 5 were done by different composers. Jack Wall did 3 and 4. And then 5, I think, was Trevor Hall, maybe? It's memory's fuzzy on that one. I try to remember these things. Welcome back to the show, everybody. About 30 minutes now before we will be taking our next break and then coming back with Rand Miller to talk to us about Firmament, Myst, just catch up. He was in PAX East. I wish I would have gone to PAX East. Not only because they were there, but also the folks from Three Fields Entertainment were there. And it's likely that I have met most of them when I visited Criterion Games in Guilford back in 2010. They really hadn't all broken apart at that point. They were working on the Need for Speed franchise. Mm-hmm. But still, just to be able to go, because I don't know, man. You take a small group of 7 people and you start working on these games with the ultimate goal of getting back to where you were with the Burnout franchise as far as making that style of a game. Mm-hmm. And that takes dedication, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of sacrifice, I'm sure, it takes a lot of money. And I just want to thank them for doing it, mm-hmm. for getting there. And I want to support them, and so, picking up their game on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Big fan of that. Let's look over real quick on some of the news that we had. We already talked about the Borderlands 3 stuff. I hate to bring up Anthem again because it's never good news, and it's still not good news.
Wow.
Kotaku did a really, really, and I mean massively in-depth piece on...
They wrote a book.
Huh?
They wrote a book on that thing.
Did you read it?
Now,
I started.
I looked at little bits and pieces of people talking about it,
yeah.
and every one of them said the same thing. This is a long, article that they put on this thing. The number of problems they were talking about this thing is ridiculous.
I started reading it, and then I got to a break there, and I looked over at my scroll bar, and I was like, oh, my God, that's as far down as I am?
Yeah.
And then I scrolled through, and I was like, this is a fantastic piece. Jason Schreier, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, I apologize. Good job, buddy, on doing that. Man, I just posted that in the chat room. And it talks about how Anthem went wrong. And then BioWare does not react in a very good way. Jason apparently sent the article over to them and said, we're about to post this. Is there any sort of statement you'd like to give before we go live with this article? Mm-hmm. And they did not respond. After the article went live, they issued an internal memo to the team, and that got leaked out. And then they responded to that, I believe, and it wasn't the best of responses. I mean, they didn't go into any kind of bickering or any sort of name calling or something like that. Just it wasn't really the way that probably you should have responded to something like that. They have since issued a response to it since then that was better, but it's still not. It doesn't fix anything. I can tell you that much. Mm-mm. Anthem had a horrible development history.
So one of the
things,
I remember,
people were put through to make this thing.
I knew it was always a grueling process putting the game together. I mean, I remember playing,
and that almost goes with any big game, by the way.
Like I remember,
just Anthem.
I remember there was a video on the back of one of the Mortal Kombat games I played back when they were still with Midway. There was like a little video they had of talking about all the things they go through, right? And Ed Boon getting to Midway Studios around 7 in the morning, right? Mm-hmm. And him not leaving till 8:30 at night. And that's a typical everyday thing for him during the making of this game. And I know a lot of the staff was going through that as well. But the stuff he was describing in this article, I mean, mental breakdowns.
Yeah, no.
And all types of things like that. I think they called them stress casualties in the article.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. They came up with a term, and it was called stress casualty.
Stress casualty. You just break, and you got to go for like 2-3 months. And some came back, some didn't.
Yeah.
And then resources were taken from the priority wasn't Anthem. It was FIFA. Because FIFA is the moneymaker for EA.
It is.
They make $1 billion a year with this franchise, and people were taken off of Anthem's team to work specifically on FIFA, and they never came back.
Which put more crunch on the guys working on Anthem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
crunch is a horrible thing in gaming, and I don't know. God. John Oliver. This goes back to wrestling. John Oliver did an expose. I think it's more.
He was telling the stuff we already knew.
I think it's silently understood. Yeah.
Yeah, he was telling the stuff we already knew about
wrestling and what the wrestlers have to go through, and that there is no benefit for them. There is no health care. There is no. I mean, it's a horrible situation. Mm-hmm. And there was this whole talk of like they should unionize, and I think game developers is also a place where that's something else should be done there. It's not near as bad as the wrestling side of things, but it's bad. And I don't know that there's an article out there for it. If there is, that's fine, because I only ever heard this secondhand, and it was about the development process on The Last of Us through Naughty Dog. And what horrible... Like, they didn't force anybody into any... I mean... Okay, it wasn't as bad as what Anthem was, as far as how the studio wasn't helping or taking away help and that support and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
it was just the amount of crunch that everybody was going through. Mm-hmm. Neil Druckmann, what he was going through and that sort of thing, and where people's families were in jeopardy because of it. People's just mental and just health in general was in jeopardy because of what they were working on.
If you ever pay attention to the closing credits of a game, some epic game like God of War or Dark Souls or something along those lines, or Uncharted, you almost always see something in there about special thanks, especially to their spouses and families, and putting up with what they had to put up with during the making of this of said game. It's almost always in there at some point in the back of the game.
It was just released on Netflix this weekend, actually. There is a Oh, man, I'd have to look it up. It's a documentary on the making of For Honor, the Ubisoft game.
Okay, I have to find that then. Netflix, you said, right?
Yeah, it's on
okay.
Netflix.
All
Let me
right.
look this up real quick.
Mm-hmm.
For Honor documentary.
Yeah.
Well, nobody's giving me a title. All they're giving me is a headline. What is it called? Playing Hard.
Playing Hard, okay.
Yeah. A surprisingly candid documentary about the making of For Honor is available now on Netflix. Only a year old, it seems even more timely next to recent stories of working conditions, work-life balance, and ongoing stress. The documentary was not commissioned by Ubisoft. It's the work of someone who wasn't interested in video games as a subject per se, but definitely noticed Ubisoft Montreal's growing presence in the neighborhood where he worked. They got curious enough about what they did, to follow everyone around for several months.
How it affected his neighborhood.
No. He just noticed it was affecting his neighbor. A lot of people there, and so he did a documentary about it.
Okay.
And in the documentary, 3 main characters emerge. All 3 go through intense personal journeys, struggling with their creative idealism, the need to collaborate, the desire to throw all they have into the project, and the strain that causes elsewhere in their lives. In one case, his health worsens with his diet as he takes on the globe-trotting job of promoting the game. Cardin, a divorced father, is pulled in so many different directions he checks out in December 2016, 2 months before the game ships, to go to therapy. Another one swings from excitement and joy of bringing a 10-year-old creative vision to term to ultimately losing control of it in a collaborative process. Eventually, he finds he has no role in the team, and his passion project has left him like an estranged child. And he has since left Ubisoft Montreal. Yeah, check that out. So
something else that comes to mind with that Kotaku article, it sounds like, your artistic vision where you wanted to go. There was really no direction. What was it, 6 years of development?
It was a while.
That's 6 years, but the finalization came in the last 10 to 12 months.
Yeah.
6 years of development, and all the hard work came in the last 10 to 12 months.
That actually happens a lot in some of the bigger studios like this. And by bigger studios, I mean EA being a publisher and I guess a developer that owns a bunch of development houses, and they've got a whole bunch of different things in the pot that they're working on, and so their focus gets shifted to different projects.
Yeah.
And it's only when projects are nearing a certain milestone in the development that then they take a look at it and see, let's see how this is going. I know you spent 2 years on this, but we need to change what you've done here. Go back to it.
Yeah.
And whereas, I use this connection only for the fact that I know the people who worked there. I use this connection over at Naughty Dog, where we're working on this game. We are this studio working on this one game, with the exception of what they did with Uncharted 3 and Last of Us. They did dual development on that.
Yeah.
But again, Last of Us went through some horrible crunch with the developers on that. Some horrible crunch. But they were focused. It wasn't because they weren't making last minute changes. They weren't making things weren't coming to a deadline and then realizing, we haven't done any of this. Let's start again. It wasn't anything like that. It was just a lot of things that had to be met.
Yeah.
And so, but when you have a house like EA or even 2K, who else would be another one? Konami, I guess, not anymore. Not necessarily Microsoft. I'm trying to think of another big publisher. Maybe Activision.
Okay.
Even though Activision really only does one thing now, and that's Call of Duty. But Capcom may be another one. Well, no, because they develop their own. They're a developer.
Yeah. I was thinking along the lines of something that was else was in that article about how it feels like it's probably been this way for a long time. Like you said, with the crunch of the games being put out, about how they'll put someone in charge, an executive in charge that knows how to maximize profits, but don't necessarily know anything about the video game, video games and things like that.
That's when that's when EA steps in.
Yeah,
and they're like, okay, but how are we going to make money off of this? So you got where's your microtransactions? You don't have. Oh wait, no, fix that. We're gonna make money off this. It's a multiplayer game, right? Strictly multiplayer, so that they can do their microtransaction. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's
That indicates, and this article indicates that really butted heads on that because they were just, like I said, just focused on that.
And
nothing
again,
else.
it also goes back to something that Amy Hennig said when she was working for Visceral before they shut down, is that EA it demands that all developing houses under them use the Frostbite engine. What are you working on? Are you using the Frostbite engine? That's what you're supposed to use, nothing else.
Yeah.
Don't build another engine, use the Frostbite engine. Frostbite engine is great in multiplayer. First-person shooters and for Frostbite, yeah, it's fantastic. Not when you want to play single player. Not when you want to. I guess it also caused issues with some of what BioWare was doing with Anthem as well. Not as many, I don't think, but it still had its problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Frostbite,
a lot.
yeah, Frostbite
anyway,
was a pain.
That article is fantastic to read.
Yeah.
So that's what we're getting at. And now, moving on to other stories, we talked about Borderlands getting review bombed on Steam. It was
Oh.
when the exclusivity was announced.
Yeah.
For Epic, people went to the Steam store and just crapped all over the game. Just review after review, just trying to drive down the number of it being positive. Well, Steam has a protection in for that, and it finally kicked in. And now there's an asterisk by the number of reviews that it's gotten.
Yeah.
And it says, look, over the past ever how many days, this thing has been 90-some-odd% positive, but here's the catch on this, and so just want to let you know. So now it still shows up as being overwhelmingly positive in the review. But if you scroll down and you read the reviews, it's just people crapping all over it because of the Epic Game Store exclusivity that it's getting. So I'll try and come back to some of these things that we have for stories later on. You were talking about Sekiro. You didn't play any? Did you play?
I played a little bit of it. I just I got stuck at that point where I'm at a boss, and some people in the chat room suggested check out some of the prosthetics I've gotten over time. And I've gotten a few prosthetics over time. I think I got 6 now.
Didn't you say you were looking for a strategy guide or something?
No, there was a strat guide they usually have for the games. The hardcovers from Future Press, who was the top tier in my opinion in terms of making strat guides, hardcover, collectible, really nice things like that. In fact, the first one I got from them was Bayonetta when that first came out. Check out the price of it on eBay right now. It's in the hundreds of bucks for that book. But they were making one for Sekiro as well. But the game came out, I think, was on the 22nd of March, or 22nd or the 26th of March. But their strat guide wasn't going to be ready until April 15th. So I was waiting on that. But by the time I get that, by the time I get the book, I'll probably either be finished with the game or well ahead, and I'll probably see all the stuff that I've missed, getting from where I started to where I'm at now.
God, I haven't used a strategy guide in forever.
Yeah.
I haven't bought one in forever.
They're more, like I said, they're more collectibles, especially if they're from Future Press. The hardcovers are real nice. I also think another thing about Future Press is that how thorough they are in their research for their stuff. Like the one they did for Bloodborne. The one they did for Bloodborne is I want to say about 500 pages or so, about a little over 500 pages, and then they put out the DLC, the Old Hunters, and they put out a book for that. So.
Nice.
That one was
nice.
about 300 pages. There was a little a companion for it. So they do their work. They do their research. They're very thorough in what they do, and they know what they're talking about in terms of tips and strategies for the games they're covering. So kudos to them, man. Every time I see Future Press, I'm interested in picking up one of their books.
I don't know who did it. Who did the last one I actually bought was Breath of the Wild.
Hardcover?
Yeah, it's hardcover. It's real nice. I don't think it's Future Press.
Okay. I don't know.
I could look it up and find out.
Yeah. Now I remember they were planning to do one for Neo, another title that I picked up and haven't finished. But they were planning on putting it out, and that was a really big one as well, well over 500 pages as well. But for some reason they didn't release it, or something happened and they couldn't. I don't get what the reason was, but they stopped. From what I was told, they stopped production on it. Probably couldn't do the part with the DLC because there was 3 individual stories they had of DLC for Neo that was out.
Prima Games was the one I got for Mario Odyssey. Maybe that was the last one I picked up then. So maybe it was Prima Games that did the Zelda one.
Yeah.
Had some fantastic artwork on it, which I think is why I picked that up. So, yeah, it's some. I mean, Lethal Migraine, beautiful book on that. Witcher Heart. Yeah. I've seen that one.
I guess for me, it's like you with
No. I'm in the same boat.
No,
like some of those things with steelbooks.
Steelbooks,
They're
yeah,
beautiful
covers, beautiful artwork, and things like that. Sometimes those strat guides double as art books.
Yeah, they
with
do.
The stuff they put in there.
Let's go to the phones real quick, and before we hit our next break, and we don't have to let him wait very long. Hey, Chris.
What's going on, y'all?
We're just talking strat guides and things like that. About to take our top of the hour break here. What's going on with you?
Well, I got, I may have talked about my Super NES with the sound issue, so I ordered a soundboard, and I just popped the new one in, and it fits my issue. So I was able to fix the darn system and get it the sound to working properly.
You put a new
again.
soundboard into your SNES?
Yes, sir.
Neat.
The original system, the little soundboard module was separate completely, so you just unscrew the couple screws, pop it right out, and then replace it. So I was lucky on that one since I had the original model. So I found one online for about $10 or $11 and popped it in, and sure enough, it works perfectly now.
It's a good feeling having to be able to repair your systems like that. Now, the bet is better if you when you can find the actual replacement parts, like a Dreamcast. I think I've had Jeremy fixed one before, and then I fixed my other one that I had. It's just had to get the DVD and motor that slides the laser back and forth.
Oh yeah,
had to get that replaced. And being able to find the parts and put it in there, I mean, it's really good to be able to extend the life of your old classic systems. Because getting all those things still working.
Especially when you find out that it's something as small as that. Like a lot of the times when they break down, people are like, well, I guess I got to get a new one. And then you'll go spend whatever money to get a new one. But it's a part that probably cost you, I don't know, maybe even $20.
Yeah, the low double digits at best.
Yeah. That if you can replace it yourself, boom, you got basically a like new machine.
Yeah. It's the type of price where you're more upset about the shipping than the price of the actual part itself.
Yep.
Like that.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. I first thought it was the capacitors in the system going bad, which that wasn't the cause, but I extended the life of it since those old capacitors are over 20 years old now, so it's going to last another 20-plus years, so I don't have to worry about those popping and getting corrosive material from those suckers in there and start corroding the board, so I don't have to worry about that no more.
Yeah, I'm going to hate the day when those parts get discontinued or hard to find, or you maybe just have to buy another console for spare parts or whatever, or broken systems to get the parts you need to repair the ones that you have.
Yep.
Well, Chris, we appreciate you calling in every week. We enjoy it, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the living stew out of God of War. I don't know why I hadn't started playing this sucker yet.
I know. I need to get back into that. There's so much I need to get back into. I need to get to that point.
Not enough time, is there?
It's not necessarily time. It's my apparent addiction to Destiny that is keeping me from doing that. Because anytime I'm thinking about playing something else, I think, well, let me pop into Destiny and knock out just a thing. Just let me do my daily. You know what I'm saying?
Your daily,
let me just do that. And that's not how it works. I don't just pop in and do my daily. I do like five other different
You do
things.
everything else, and let me go this.
I do, and then when I'm done, I'm like, I could do that on my alt tomorrow. That took no time. I'll just do it on my alt. And then I just, oh God, it's a horrible cycle. Horrible cycle they've got me stuck in.
The vicious cycle.
It is, and it's my own fault. It's my own fault. All right, Chris, take care, man.
All right, y'all have a good afternoon.
Bye-bye.
See you now.
Bye.
Yeah. We're also keeping an eye on the weather around here. It's supposed to get rainy and stuff.
Yeah.
We might, if you're listening on the radio, we might get knocked off to give one of those weather warning things. But we won't know about it up here. It doesn't come into our headphones, and it won't come out over the stream as well. So you're okay. A few other things that we'll get to after the interview. I don't know exactly how long this interview is going to go. I don't know how long Rand has allotted time for us. It's a Saturday afternoon. I have no idea what else he has on his plate, other than probably just still working on Firmament. But, we'll see, and we'll just go as I've got plenty of questions lined up here. And if you have any questions for him, feel free to drop them in the chat room there on Twitch, and I'll get to them as I can. So we're going to take a break here, and hopefully when we come back, we should have Rand on the phone with us after we come back from the break. Going to go back again to a very old game, one of the first that Cyan Worlds had done. And so you heard Cosmic Osmo. This was another one. It's very point and click, and this comes from the Masterpiece Edition that they released, because the first game apparently did not have a soundtrack to it. It was on a Mac, and it was done with HyperCard technology, which is there's a documentary on how to use HyperCard stuff, and so a lot of work. It's from a game called The Manhole, and the name of this track is called Roundabout. We'll be back with more in-game chat after this. And welcome back to In-Game Chat with, I'm Scott, along with RJ. You're listening to music now from Myst 5, track called Beginnings, and also called Atris as well, who we actually have on the phone right now, Rand Miller. Hi!
Hey! I feel like that piece is so evocative. I as soon as you started playing it, I remembered doing the voiceover for the beginning of that game.
Right, because this is when your speech comes across.
Yeah, and it was very melancholy, and it was real different for a game. There was not a lot of hope in it. It was kind of down and a lot of emotion in it. Anyway, yeah, it brought back memories. Really weird.
Did you know at the time that was going to be the final? You knew at the time that would be the last one, right?
Yeah, and it had a lot of emotion with it as well, because we weren't planning on. We had those big plans for that online game, and we had to kind of take some of that stuff and turn it into Myst 5, and so it was. We had mixed emotions about the whole thing. So we were excited to be doing it, but it was sad to see the online game go away, or for the most part. So yeah, it was real. We were torn on a lot of different levels on that one.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday to call into our show. I know that you've been, last weekend you were in Boston I guess, for PAX.
Yeah. Oh, I love this guy. It's always great talking with you. Yes, I was at PAX East in Boston last weekend, so I've been traveling and hobnobbing and getting to meet with fans, which I don't get to do very often. They don't let me out much, so every now and then I get to hobnob, which is cool.
Which is a shame, because there's a lot of us who for me, like I had, and I've talked about this before, I've had 3 massive moments in my gaming life that have been milestones for me, and one was flying to Guildford, England, to meet the Criterion Games guys. They were working on Need for Speed, but I loved them for their Burnout stuff. Mm-hmm. The other one was being able to... I made friends with her over Facebook, which was very, very weird. Or at least it feels weird now. But I made friends with her over on Facebook, and she basically gave me a creator's commentary as I played her game through Facebook, and then finally got to meet Amy Hennig.
Wow.
While I was playing Uncharted 2. It was a very strange time for me to just sit there and talk to her over Facebook. And then I basically got to, and you were the last one. You were the last one on this list, because it was sort of like that. This is it. This is all I have left to do to complete my trifecta of dreams. Was to visit the Mecca that is, the headquarters in Spokane, and visit you guys. That's the first. You shaped me as a gamer. Everything that has come since my time of playing Myst, however old I was at the time, that is what has shaped me. You're the reason now it takes me so long to complete single player games, because every single nook and cranny needs to be looked at. Every single, you give me this open world, and I need to go to every 4 corners of it to make sure I'm not missing anything.
See, that's a lost art. It's interesting watching the new generation coming up and playing, because they really don't usually do that. They just blow past stuff for the most part as quickly as they can. They're getting to the point of things, which is an interesting challenge for us, even with new games. I was just talking about this with my wife this morning. You've got to almost be retrained. I don't think it's a bad thing. It's like the pendulum just swings, I guess.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because that pendulum currently right now is sitting over Battle Royale games, and thank God you're not doing it. I'm so glad you're not doing anything like that.
We are doing Myst Battle Royale.
Oh,
I
boy.
thought I'd bring that up on this one, yeah. The island. You should see the island.
Go put your reservation
Don't ever
in,
do
Scott.
that. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. Oh, don't ever do anything like that. Apparently there's money there, but don't ever do that. Let's just start with what you guys are working on now, which is the Kickstarter you got going on for Firmament.
Yeah, we're back. We're going back to the Kickstarter well, which is always interesting for us. We've that's how we did Abduction. We did this big Myst 25 thing to celebrate the Myst 25th anniversary, which was
I love my linking book. I love my linking book.
Are those not so?
That
cool?
is so amazing. It's great.
I know the coolest thing about the 25th anniversary was that we got to make those books that we wanted. It's nice that you guys get them too, but it's like, these are cool. Yeah.
It is fantastic. Yeah. The pen, the inkwell, it's all, it's just wonderful. It's wonderful. Yeah, I'm so glad I have that.
Yeah, it turned out really well. And, those are done. We won't make those again. So it was cool to kind of wrap up that chapter and say, get it now or you won't get it. So that's kind of cool. But then, we've got this cool idea. We've worked on this at the end of Abduction. We had an idea, and it was really Eric Anderson, the art director on Abduction. I've worked with him for a lot of years, and he and I kind of sat down and came up with a lot of the details behind Firmament, and we weren't sure what would happen with it, but as luck would have it, we decided we would try the Kickstarter thing again and see what we could come up with. It's definitely more VR centric. Doesn't mean you won't have a full game on a PC. You can play it flat if you want, but we're kind of flipping what we did with Abduction. We built Abduction for flat PC, and then we kind of modified it for VR. We're doing the opposite. Well, not exactly. We're definitely designing and building Firmament for VR, but it's almost simultaneously we're adapting it for flat as well. So
yeah.
And anyway, it's I wish. Okay, this is one of those cool things that I wish I could just tell you the story, because it's a really interesting story. It's got this steampunky, magical feel, but the story will just blow people's minds, and I can't get into it because I want to see what it does when people people get it.
So you're gonna the story I don't even know if it's story basics or whatever. I'm not sure, but because I know extremely little about this game, basically just from I know whatever's out there as far as what Kickstarter has, and that's not really anything at all.
No, well, it's weird, Scott, because we've released probably it's a weird anomaly in our Kickstarters, because we actually have a short version of this that's actually playable. We built it just to test some things for ourselves. So in some ways, we have more than we've ever released. But then because of the nature of the story, we've also held back on a lot of details because we don't want to give stuff away. So it's both more than we've done and less than we've done. But it's a weird thing. The other cool thing I like about it, and I'm kind of excited about this as well, is there's this little device, this clockwork device that we call the adjunct that comes into play really early. If you've seen any of the teaser video that we did, you've seen this little floating flying thing. And the cool thing about that is that thing accompanies you and kind of helps you along your journey, but you've got to learn how it works. There's not necessarily an instruction manual that tells you how you interact with this thing. So a lot of it is discovery, and I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I love finding out for myself. It seems like I get a lot of satisfaction in games when
it's another signature trait of the Myst series, at least, is like, here we're going to put you here, now you figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. And so in addition to puzzles that are that way, this is an actual device that accompanies you that you've got to kind of learn to use, and you kind of get a little relationship with it. So we'll see how that goes. But it's got some good practice sessions, watching people watching what they do. Kind of cool.
I want to. I'm going to jump into now. I went to the Myst subreddit and also the Firmament subreddit as well. There's one for Firmament, and I posted that, hey, we're going to have these questions. I let people know it's not really an AMA, so don't be throwing out. I wanted to basically stick to Firmament. There are a few Myst questions, but we'll get to those later if we have time. But let me jump into the questions that the folks of Reddit posted. Fuzzy Puffin had a few questions. What's the scope of Firmament in comparison to Abduction? Similar length?
I think that the amount of real estate will probably be a similar amount, but I don't know that it will be the kind of puzzles that will hinder your exploration as much.
Okay.
So, with all that said, I mean, these days it's hard to put a timing. People want to know how long am I going to get to play on these things.
Yeah,
I think what we're
What's just for not comparison's sake, but just to put that into perspective, how far in development is this?
We're very early on.
Yeah.
We did what we could before we actually had to lay some people off, just because, if you hit it big, you can go on with the next thing, and if you don't, you got to figure out where your next funding comes from. So that's the stage we're in now. But yeah, so we've got a small portion of it done, and that was mainly to test both the art and this interface idea with this adjunct that you interface with. Like, what will people do? Oh, this is a whole story on its own. Like, the small things that people do. I'm getting down bunny trails here. We're shooting for, like a 15-hour kind of experience.
Yeah.
For Firmament. So it's probably, for some people, it may be a shorter experience. For some, it'll be a similar experience to Abduction, just depending on how fast you blew through it. So
I don't play your games fast. I don't try. Your games are immersive to me. They are ones where I let the world envelop me, and it's almost a sense of role playing, but not in, but different in a way, I guess you could say. I put myself there as much as I can. I cut out all sort of. I turn the lights off. I make sure that there are so very few distractions, and I can really sink myself into where I'm at. I've done it every single time I played one of the Myst titles. I did it with Abduction as well. I take my time and I savor it, because I never know if it's the last time I'm going to play a Cyan Worlds game. And so I savor the experience every single time. That's
really cool. You do it the right way. That is, I love that. Yeah, that's how they should be played, It's like,
I don't do that with every game, but with your guys I do. I mean, the way, man, I wish I could go back and tell you and give you that experience that I had, because I couldn't play Riven when it originally released. I could up until disc 5, and at that point, I couldn't play it. The computer that I had wouldn't do it. So it took me forever to finally finish that game, which is fine because that stupid puzzle at the end, God, you know what I'm talking about, the marble puzzle, yeah,
the waffle iron.
God, so there's that, but then and then 3 was released on console, which is where I played that. Because I had a computer that could do it, and then finally I was able to build my own machine that could handle the stuff you guys were throwing at me, which I'm hoping that'll be the same way. I don't know the specs. Do you know about? You're probably not at that sort of stage to say recommended the workings. I mean, like what kind of PC we would need to run this thing. Do you know?
Yeah, I think we're shooting for similar to what we did with Abduction. We have a few advantages going for us. One is we learned a lot with Abduction, and part of the test we did was, okay, all the stuff we learned of Abduction, let's build this one mountainous, snowy region, and that looks pretty darn good for VR and flat, and see what kind of performance we can get out of it, and it was amazing. So I think we're similar with what Abduction required. So do you do VR stuff, Scott?
I do.
Okay.
Right now I have to work. So far with I have a Vive and I have a Rift actually, but I have the PSVR as well. But I have a Vive, and currently the room that I have that stuff set up in, I can get the minimalist space required. And right now I'm working on cleaning out a section of the house where I will move my PC setup into that room and have a full floor space for complete VR.
Nice.
Because you guys dipped your toe in it with Abduction, but I have been, I don't know how many E3s I was going to playing development kits of Oculus Rift for the most part, and realized that VR is amazing. When you can make it work, it is amazing. Yep. And Star Trek Bridge Crew is a fantastic thing. It's ridiculous because it's not necessarily ridiculous because it's in Star Trek, but just the fact of 5 people controlling a starship and in VR was just one, and doing multiplayer with that was one, which that's another thing. Any kind of involvement with not necessarily multiplayer, but some sort of other player interaction for this game, or strictly single?
No, we would love to get into multiplayer stuff. We've got a few. We've had some long discussions about it, but it's just for the budget and for doing, for looking at what we're doing, we've got to kind of keep it to the point. Because as soon as you add another person, you add an order of magnitude of complexity.
Well, I didn't know if there'd be something like Dark Souls, I think, uses this, where you can come up upon something that another player has written has written for you, where you could come upon, like, that's not necessarily multiplayer integration, but it is sort of a feeling of community and trying to solve these issues with a community essence of somebody writing something in the snow or whatever it might be that's out there saying, up ahead but you have to be careful because then they could just spoil everything for you. and just say, here, take this over there and put that.
Sometimes they'll try to hinder you instead of help you.
Yeah, there's some issues there with that, I guess you could say, but that's fine. One of the other questions that Fuzzy Puffin at, will Robin return as one of the composers? I think you've already announced who the composer is.
Yeah. Robin did a great, amazing job on the abduction stuff, and he kind of came back.
No bias at all from you, huh?
Acting in it, but yeah, we're moving in a little bit different direction for Firmament. Yeah, so stay tuned.
Okay.
It'll be some great stuff, yeah.
The next question was, if I remember correctly, when Firmament was initially revealed, your intent was to seek investors and not do another Kickstarter. What changed? Is Firmament getting any other outside funding?
No, it's not. And it's not. Okay, so getting these games funded is always a pain, actually. I'll just be honest with you. It's just, that is the least fun thing of being an indie developer is, okay, how am I going to fund the next project?
How do you pay for it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not what we do well. We don't have a lot of connections. We sit here up here in Spokane, Washington, quietly trying to do our stuff, and we don't have a lot of biz dev and connected people and networkers and all that. So when it comes time to raise it, we kind of reach out to people we know. And this one being VR, we did it just as VR kind of had that little dip where it didn't take off quite as quickly as people expected. I still think it's amazing and taking off plenty fast.
When the cost of entry comes down, you're going to see a lot more people using it. If it can survive that long to where the cost of entry can come down and it still be viable and people are still making things for it, if they can just hold out until that cost of entry can come down, you're going to have a lot of people. I mean, the PSVR already has done a good thing for VR by kind of getting people's foot in the door with what VR is.
Absolutely, yeah. There's already enough of a base of VR people to justify, the indies at least trying stuff for it. I wish some of the larger companies would open the pocketbooks a bit, just anticipating the future and seeing, kind of almost some labs that kind of let some indies do some fun stuff, so that then those can be, as a base of VR grows, they can make those into larger games. But it doesn't matter. We're anticipating VR is going to be great. It's already got a larger number of installed users than Myst had when it came out for players. So yeah, we're excited about that. We did not get funding. There was a couple opportunities, and investors. If Abduction had done better, it's possible we might have had a better chance. We still are looking for outside stuff, but we decided to go back to Kickstarter because we've had some success, and that allows us to, in a lot of ways, take the temperature of the project too. If we can't get enough people in Kickstarter to do it, then that's a good sign that it may not have been the right project at that time for the next one. So, it's a good way to do it. Can't complain about it at all.
That leads into the other question that he had in his final. How do you see the Kickstarter landscape different from when you did the Abduction Kickstarter, or maybe even the Myst 25 Kickstarter?
Boy, that's a good question. I don't know if I have my finger on the pulse of Kickstarter enough. I think a lot of people are more a little more tentative to jump in because they've been burned.
But so far, not by you.
Yeah, not by us. And I hope that covers over, because I think we've done pretty darn good by anybody who's supported us Kickstarter-wise. I'm sure there's a few negative voices out there that would, be unhappy, but boy, they're few and far between. We've gotten this stuff out, and as far as Abduction's concerned, I think we hit a home run on that one for what the budget was, and it was a year late, but I mean that's on time for a Kickstarter, I think. So it's I think we did all right. And then the Myst 25, I think we pulled that one off really well. So I think we have a good reputation, and hopefully the landscape hasn't changed that much, and we appeal to at least the very same people that were interested in Abduction.
Yeah. Thomas G86 says, I would like to know about the specific challenge of making a game fluid and engaging in both a virtual reality and flat screen experience. What kind of concessions have to be made?
Well, it depends on which direction you go. So this is an interesting thing about Firmament. Some of this we want to go back to the very intuitive roots of where we started, which is, Myst, where you have a hand on the screen with one finger, a pointing finger. And I'll talk about interface, because to me, VR interface is this standout, but understated aspect of VR. To me, that's the thing that blows my mind. I have hands in this world.
Yeah.
That's so cool. You can put on VR and you get this great sense of space, and you feel like you're in there in the presence of being in a real spot. But when you have hands, you're not dealing with a controller anymore, or a keyboard, or a WASD or whatever. You know what to do. Here's your hand. Here's a handle. Boom. Click it. Move it. Adjust it. And that's really, really exciting in VR. So that's the thing we wanted to embrace with Firmament in VR in particular, is let's just let people make it as intuitive as we can, just like those early Myst games where you've got a hand in one finger. And so we're embracing that for VR, and we're mapping that for flat screen. And that's the biggest challenge, because you have whole hands in VR, we can look at your finger, we can look at your
gestures, yeah.
Gestures, exactly. We've got a lot of variables we can mess with, and we've got to adjust those for the flat version. But we're trying to do it in a way that really holds up as we make that conversion. And so far, it's pretty interesting. We even have a clip, I think, on the Kickstarter that has hands on the screen, and it looks like it's part of a VR capture, but it's not. It's actually the flat screen capture. Yeah.
Control Z says, I think we kind of answered that already, but I'd love to know if they formulated any new or pioneering game mechanics into Firmament, much like Abduction had a somewhat unique interactive item inspection mechanic. Anything about Firmament pushing any boundaries creatively or technically? Yeah,
I think that interface definitely is where we're going to be pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
We built so this is a really interesting thing. Okay, so we just wanted to experiment with very simple gestures in this game to begin with, just to see what people would do. I mean, the psychology of it. How much would they learn? How much would they try? How much were they inhibited? And so there's just a couple that you start with, like raise your hand up. And we don't want to give you instructions that say raise your hand up. We wanted to see if we could entice you to do it. Yeah, exactly. Like what would we need to do to kind of make you raise your hand up that then would be, you get feedback from the adjunct that would tell you, oh, that was the right thing, I did the right thing. It's like you're training each other, and so, but it was, Scott, it was so much more difficult than what we thought. Just lifting your hand up or pointing at something, registering a point and getting people to realize they're pointing, and that it's not the controls, it actually is your hand that's doing this. And that is the most technical challenge, and it sounds like it should be trivial, and it is not trivial. And as we get more complex with those gestures and those controls, that gets really exciting, and that's what I'm anticipating is going to be like the epic culmination of this game is a mastery of all those things, almost like you're the conductor of an orchestra, you and this adjunct performing these things to make this major event happen.
94 Chris says, was or is there any discussion on a possible PSVR port in the future?
Always. We have experience with PSVR. It's just for the budget we're doing this Kickstarter on, for the initial budget, we've got to be really tight and careful. So just because we didn't mention in the Kickstarter does not by any means mean that we don't want to pursue it in the future. if you see we pursued it with Abduction, you know that we would love to pursue it with Firmament as well.
Okay. Greg Littlefield asks, why Firmament and not a sequel to Abduction?
It's a really good question. I think Abduction was always meant as kind of that one-off story. I can say that, and we have talked about where it might lead, but it had a nice wrap-up in our minds, I think. Unlike, say, Myst, that kind of left things hanging. After Myst, it led just naturally into Ribbon. We kind of designed Abduction to kind of get to that final crescendo.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Let's see. Bugsby Berkeley asks, Firmament is described as the beginning of an exciting new Cyan universe. Is it being designed to be the first part of a larger story?
It's possible. Like I said, it's got a story that just is so wonderful. It's got a story that I mean, if it was a movie, I'd go see the movie, and I'd love it. So it's got some legs and potential to do much more than just this small window into what it is, into this first Firmament window that we're building into it. So we'll see. We'll see if we even get a chance to do the first thing, but if we do, there might be more stories to tell.
Super Rodan had a very long written-out question here, but he tried to sum it up. He says, I'm a bit curious how much of Firmament is already established on paper. I know things always change once you begin to make a game, either due to technical limitations or due to learning what is or isn't working via playtest. I guess another way to phrase what I'm trying to ask, because there was a lot more in between that I just skipped over, do they design additively or subtractively? And do they have a massive game completely designed down to the map's smallest detail, and then they cut what won't work? Or do they start sparsely with a very general layout of structure and then add things where they realize they need them?
Wow.
Okay, a very long question.
Man, that's a great question. And I think every studio you ask might have a different question, a different answer for that. So I'll go into ours in particular. And even different projects, I would answer that differently. For Abduction, when we did the Kickstarter, we had very broad strokes of where we were going. Very broad. Because we'd never done a Kickstarter before, we weren't sure what the odds were. People were volunteering their time, and we just didn't have time to put pen to paper and do the details. So it was very broad, and we hammered the details down then after the Kickstarter was successful. And when we did hammer the details down, it was these large top-down maps of every world, very architectural, with pencil and paper. This is where the path would go, and this is where this item would be, with a very, I'll say, a detailed idea of how the puzzle would work and how everything would connect together, but not a very detailed aesthetic design yet. And so after we did all that, then it would go to the individual artists who, at Cyan, I think we've always let some of that design rest on the artist's shoulders. It doesn't come down from on high as a finished design. It comes down with a little bit of wiggle room for the artists to express themselves in some of this stuff as well. And with all that said, and getting back to the question, it is very natural for us as a small company to iterate quickly and, if necessary. So as soon as we get things done, we put people in and we try things. We try them ourselves, and they may not be working, and we adjust quickly. We don't have some Bible of Abduction design that tells us exactly what must be done, and we can't stray from it. Mm-hmm. We move quickly to adjust and adjust and adjust and adjust.
You're fluid.
We can. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the strengths of being an indie, being smaller, is you can do that. So with all that said, and without belaboring it, Firmament is, too late. Firmament is a little bit different because we've had some time because of abduction funding and income, and because of Miss 25 income, we had time to keep people on and kind of do some design up front. So we have a really good idea of what the story is and the characters are and some of the puzzles are and what the reveals are and some of the story arcs and the real estate areas that we're doing and even some of the aesthetics for Firmament.
Do you which are you guys working? So you asked me about the VR space, and are you guys working with? You guys have Oculus and a Vive, I guess, and working with those.
Yeah. I mean, primarily that's what we're working with because, like I said, that the hand controls are the biggest thing for us, and we've played around with Knuckles as well, which is really exciting. I don't know if you've tried any of the dev versions of those, but
no.
It straps to your hand, so you can completely let go of it, and then it's got sensors that map a finger angle in every single finger. Really, really nice. I think it's called the Valve Index controllers now.
That was what I was about to ask you.
Yeah.
I was about to ask if you guys had touched on, because they only announced this about 2 weeks ago. It was revealed with it. They have a VR, and then I think this past week it was announced that it'll be available sometime in June, but they haven't really given any more information about what it's going to cost or really much of what it's going to look like either. We've seen just a shadowy figure of a headset of something. So
right. I know all the VR people are all salivating. Give us more, and we just don't know. But I think Valve's going to do some exciting stuff. I mean, I don't know where they're going to come down, but I know that they're pretty aggressive, and they're a company that obviously makes money on Steam, and so they've got a vested interest in having a platform that is high end and pushes VR forward if they're going to sell VR games. And if you do that, you can give away the razors to sell the blades, and I'm hoping that's how they look at it, because that would just be so good for the VR market. Yeah.
I am the Floyd man, who is also in our chat room right now, asks, I'd like to know why the development schedule for Firmament is so short. Development for Abduction was estimated at just under 2 years, but the delivery estimate for Firmament is just over 1 year. I would imagine that's just sort of maybe a placeholder type thing, or do you guys really have a just?
No, it's a great question, and there's two answers to that. One is because we're further along already with Firmament than we were Abduction.
Okay.
Like I answered that previous question, our design work, we took months of design work for Abduction before we could actually start building it. And during that design work that Rawa and I were doing, the artists were doing a lot of their own work, trying to get deep into Unreal and figure out how we want to do things and build tools for building things efficiently. And that's all done. We have all that behind us. And so the little slice we did of Firmament, the little proof of concept, another part of doing that was how fast can we build it, given that we have the tools now, and we wanted to just see, and we had people who were up to speed, and it went very quickly. That portion of it went way more quickly than anything we were able to do with Abduction, except at the very end. So we were encouraged, and we think we will gain some efficiency from that. We're hoping, because Abduction took more money than what we got in the Kickstarter too, and we paid a lot of that ourselves and had to get other investors. Mm-hmm. So we're hoping these efficiencies will let us kind of get things done on time and in short order.
That'll wrap up the reader questions on Firmament, but I do have just a few on myself, and I kind of wanted to. You issued an update on the Firmament Kickstarter this past week that sort of answered any question I was going to ask about it, but a lot of the criticism that I was reading on other forums and stuff about this Kickstarter was in the FAQ about what PC stores would get this. You guys had kind of left it open-ended, and people were worried about Epic Games coming in there. And we've been talking And I hate the fact that we have been, because it's still hard for me to understand. But for the past 3 weeks or 4 weeks now, we have been discussing this whole Epic Games situation. We talked about it this just earlier on in the hour before you came on. We talked about it on the show. Again, trying to figure out what people's objection was to it. And you've already issued the statement that you're going to be on as many storefronts as allowed. And I'm just kind of curious, though, if Epic comes to you and offers you a deal, is it something you would take?
Well, yeah, this is a really good question, and this debate is because we're in a very, very interesting transitional time. And I have to say, I think from an indie developer point of view and an indie studio point of view, it's opening some doors that I think are wonderful. I hate all the hate about this because it's easy from me as a consumer. I've got all my stuff on Steam, and I don't want to have another store. And oh gosh, don't make me keep 2 different front ends to my games, or 3 or 4. That's terrible.
But that's like first world problem, right?
Yeah, first world problem, exactly, because here we are with a studio of 10 to 20 people, depending on the time, and we're desperately trying to get funding for our games. And up till this point, guess what? Your options were fund it yourself, or go to a big publisher, and they get 90% and you get 10%.
Wow.
And it's like there's not a lot in between, but it's starting to. There's some options that are really cool, and the guys who are taking those options, I have no criticisms whatsoever for any of the indies who are taking those options and saying, "Hey, I can make the game I want, and I got to give it exclusively to somebody for a while to do it." But I mean, boy, oh boy, we've been spoiled. I think the rest of the world is full of exclusives, and somebody gets it first or somebody gets it forever. If it's a TV show, you got to watch it on a channel, or you can only watch it on cable. Or
right.
I mean, we're used to just going wherever the shows are. Netflix gets exclusives, but for some reason in this transition period, people are up in arms, and I think that's going to go away. I mean, eventually there's going to be exclusives because studios like us and other and even larger ones are going to look forward to getting these things funded by the places that are the stores that are going to carry them. So yes, so because we haven't been approached, because nobody's thrown great buckets of money at us to finish this thing. Our plans are the same as they've been for everything we've done, which is we'll get it in as many places as we can. But to be perfectly honest,
you're not closing that door, are you?
I mean, no. If the Kickstarter looks like, oh my gosh, this Kickstarter's not going to make it, and it's really close, and somebody comes knocking on our door and says, "Hey, here's a large bucket of money. Why don't you make this game even better than what you had planned?" That's a tough decision, or isn't it? I mean, yeah. So I don't mean to insult anybody. I do think that there's a lot of people screaming that need to think of both sides of that coin, and maybe calm down a bit. So.
All right. Well, I sort of sit on there, and we've talked about it. We've had discussions on the show over the Epic Games Store over and over. We've gone round and round trying to figure out what the underlying issue was, other than all my games are on Steam. I don't want another launcher. Whereas, and we came to the conclusion of today of being like, well, if it's exclusive, it's not competition, because competition is when the same game is available elsewhere and you guys can fight over the price of how much to charge consumers. That's competition. But when it's exclusive on one store, that's not the competition for the consumer in a sense.
Right, but the developer sets the price on all those stores anyway. So right. I mean, there's really not any big price battles. We set the price on Steam, and we set the price on GOG. I mean, we're the ones who decide what that is.
But it also, so you get this, you get the money hat from EA, or not EA, but from Epic. You get the money hat from Epic. This allows you not only to finish the game you're making, but also make money from that game that you put on the store, which will go hopefully to build more games and to extend the life of your development and of what you do. So I mean, in there, I can see a consumer-friendly situation where this is the only way we're going to survive, folks. It's the if you want more from us, we're taking this exclusive offer.
That's what I say. I totally understand people who are taking that because there's just been nothing like this, and it's. I mean, Apple's doing the same thing with their Apple Arcade. They're saying, hey, here's an indie store, or here's an indie developer that's got a great idea, and they can't make it, so we'll fund them, and they'll put it on our store. And I think there's less exclusivity there. But, let's face it, people who pay get to say a few things about it. And honestly, Epic and Apple, these guys are not being all that overly ominous. I mean, the terms are generous as far as the developers go.
Your cut's amazing from them.
I do think it's. I do think again that it's transitional, and we'll all learn to live with however this balance comes out. But it's not the way things have been done, and it's a little bit frustrating. But I think we'll all figure it out.
Yeah. I know we don't have much time left, not only in the show or in the interview, but in the show. And I appreciate so much this time that you've given us. Thank you. I think this is your fourth visit to our show, which is the most we've had on any show. So that's wonderful. And so keep doing what you're doing. And I can't wait to have you back on. But I have some missed questions to get to. A couple of other questions that I missed from the Firmament thing, I think you sort of answered. Sporks 5000's in the chat room with us, but he asked a question about biggest challenges you guys anticipate you'll be facing with the new product, and I think you've answered all of those with the VR aspect, going from VR to flat screen and how to get the gesture and the pointing and that sort of thing, right? But the missed questions that we have, G21.45 asks, can we find out whatever became of Gin?
Okay.
I know we're shifting gears. I know.
Yeah, I know, and this is a hard one because it's a behind the scenes. You got to pull back the curtain a little on this one. When we did Riven, we just assumed that what happened there was that thing collapsed. All of that collapsed, and Gan got his just reward. And was killed or whatever. Mm-hmm. But we never really wrapped it up nice and tidy, and it leaves a nice loose end if we ever need to call it back. And there have been some discussions here and there over the years about what that might entail or where that might come up. So it's still open as far as as far as we're concerned. It's still a little bit open about exactly what happened.
Alistair Dante 3142 asks, this is something, this came up not too long ago. An age that was never used. Rhyme, I guess is how it was pronounced.
Yeah.
Was Rhyme ever an age that was going to be fleshed out, or did it ever only act as a side age? I remember going there in the DS port of Myst. I don't remember if you go there in any other Myst version. But just playing Revelation again and Atris going there to fix the viewer reminded me of its existence.
Yeah, it was. Rhyme was an addition in a lot of ways as a small reward when we did the real Myst, the real time version of Myst. We added that extra world almost as a reward. Because it was a little anticlimactic when Atris says, "Oh, well, thank you for all your help. You can go wander around now."
Right.
And so we thought, let's just make a small little more hidden age that once you go back, Atris has opened up for you to go see. That gives you a little more insight into what might have been gone on, and ties the story a little bit more together into some future stuff coming up, and it was never meant to be much larger than that.
Yeah. And then the last one on this was any word, any idea, any progress on the Book of Merim?
It would not be an interview if it wasn't a question.
You're exactly right. No, of course not.
If you hadn't have asked that, and then you would have said, is there anything else you'd like to say? I would have said, well, yeah, I've got to say that something about the Book of Merim. Nope, nothing more. It still is a great story, and someday it might get told. We've got other Mist Iron. And Mist is very exciting right now. There's a lot of buzz around it in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, cool. It has really great feelings in people's hearts, reaching back to that original feeling. Like some of the things you talked about. And so, we get a lot of inquiries. And so at some point we'd love to reach back in there. And so, yeah, that's what we're looking at now. Not, for games or the episodic or motion pictures. There's a lot of buzz of things that, we'd like to make happen.
Don't you build me up and break me down on this. Don't you do that. Don't do this. Don't get me started.
Yeah. Listen, we have discussed missed episodic stuff,
oh boy,
for a while, and we've got some ideas that will. So good.
If Telltale hadn't gone, if what happened to Telltale Games hadn't gone, I could see their storytelling game mechanic could have fit into the Myst universe.
Yeah,
the way Telltale Games does.
Well, and not just episodic games, but episodic television.
Oh, that's right. I remember
series.
That. Yeah, I remember that.
So there is some, hopefully we'll get some traction on some stuff in the near future.
Yeah. All right. Well, Rand, thank you so much, on doing this. I'm always excited to talk to you. It was a pleasure to meet you the many times that I have at the studio and then at PAX and that sort of thing. And it is not just you. It is an amount of people who work there who put in everything else, and they deserve just as much as the praise that I'm giving you goes to them as well. I don't want to leave out anybody there at the studio who, because a lot of them are just as big as fans as we are, and they're working there and and putting in the work on this. So, I just want to thank them also. Please send that back to them at the studio that everybody supports everyone there. We know it's not a one-person team, so.
No, definitely not. Listen, it is such a pleasure working with these people. It's just a great bunch of people. So talented, they're so dedicated, they're just nice. It's a nice place to go to work. And yeah, I will pass it on. Thank you for remembering them. And thanks for chatting with me. It's always a blast. God, I just love it.
Hopefully this thing succeeds and we can have you back on to talk about the development of the game as you go forward. And really looking forward to it. I put in my backing for the Kickstarter for it. So I really, really hope it gets made. I support everything you guys do, and I always will. You are what shaped me as to how I play games today.
Scott, this is why we do it. I mean, I may be who shaped you, but you are why we make the games we make. I mean, thanks so much for your support. So we just can't do it without the fans who are kind of helping us along. So It's really cool, man.
Well, thanks so much. Have a fantastic weekend, and we're going to talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you, Scott.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was Rand Miller from Cyan Games, and you can find the Kickstarter for Firmament. Just go to Kickstarter, type in Firmament, and in fact, we'll post a link in the chat room on Twitch, so you can go there as well. I would take a break here, RJ, but we have 4 minutes left in the show. Not a lot of time here to really go into much. This is what happens.
But that was worth it, though.
It always is, and I don't know where you stand on the games that you've played any of those or anything like that, but we've done interviews before. Yeah. We've had plenty of people on this show before, but anytime I can talk to somebody that is my hero of video games, I'm going to go long like that. I would go another hour if I could talking to him. I really, really would. But unfortunately we can't. It's a 2-hour show. We had the 1 hour. I think he gave us more than enough time that he probably allotted for like 20 minutes or something like that. And we took 55 or so, but, so I can't thank him enough. I can't thank the team at Cyan. The folks on the Discord, Cyan has a Discord. So you can go there and get tons of information about how things are going. Talk directly with developers who are there as well. It's fantastic that it exists. I only really discovered it, I think, just recently, and so I'm glad it's there. But yeah, so the game is on Kickstarter now for your backing. We are running out of time. Not even going to get to the rest of the music that I was going to have queued up and ready to play. So thanks everybody for joining us. This show will be up on iTunes tomorrow morning sometime, and also on YouTube tomorrow morning sometime as well. We have our own Discord that you can join. Just find me, Scott IGC, #8222, and get you into our Discord as well. Subscribe to us on Twitch. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Have a fantastic weekend. RJ, thank you again. Mm-hmm. And we will see you next week. I leave you here with a musical selection from Myst. It's called The Last Message. And we'll see you next Saturday.